Hey guys, welcome to the lesson. So, this thing that I was playing, it's the old bucketa, 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 bucketa. Basically, it is right hand, left hand, and the foot. For each of these clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Now the right hand is on the first note, the left hand is on the second note, and the right foot is on the third note. So here we go. It's been around forever. You know, it's used today as gospel chops or as linear chops. Basically, it's linear because nothing's playing together. All of the limbs are playing in a line. Like that, you know, so there's no unison. That's what makes something linear, as opposed to what I call layered. This is probably the first of all of the coordination things that people tend to work on when they're starting to incorporate the foot in a linear way around the drums. You know, it's not new, it's been around forever. Buddy Rich used to play it incredibly beautifully and articulate, and you know, it was around long before him. Back, you know, in the history of the drums, it was often referred to as using a third hand, you know, so the bass drum becomes the third hand, if you like. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to learn this, and then we're going to practice it and build it up to speed. I want to give you some tips and some things to think about. Now, obviously, if you're just starting out with this, then learning to hear the triplets is probably the first thing that's going to be difficult if you've never played triplets before. One thing that I found with myself early on and with a lot of students is that what tends to happen when you're leading with the right hand is that the stick heights will be uneven. And this creates a real lump in the triplet. Rather than it being even, it gets a lump in it. You know, so that's probably the first thing, is make sure the left hand stick height is the same as the right. There's plenty of other reasons that we need to do that. And, you know, for your advanced guys, what happens basically is if you're using the same motion, you're learning all of the inversions at the same time. You just have to switch your ears. And we'll talk about that in an advanced concepts sort of a lesson in more detail. But basically, I want you to think about keeping your motion as consistent as possible through all of these things. Now, I actually refer to this as a 3-way single stroke roll. Now, the reason is, I've got to turn the click off, it drives me mental. If I play it, each limb is basically playing a series of repeated strokes without a break. When you play it, and it's even. If I take the limbs away, that, you know, one at a time, you'll see that they're all just playing continuous strokes. So check this out. Right? If any of the limbs is doing something like this, it's got this weird lump in it, then the roll when it's fast isn't going to be even. Instead of sounding like this, it's going to sound like this. We don't want that. We want it to just be an even roll between the 3 limbs. So what we're going to do to facilitate that, I actually found that playing away from the drums really helped me to develop this more, just by playing on my legs with that sound and on, hopefully on a carpeted floor, or a wooden floor is even better. Right, so if you play that in that way, or here, because you've got the same sounds or similar sounds, it's easier to hear a roll between them. Right? And also it's quiet. You can practice it like crazy everywhere you are, right? So that's one of the tips that I would say for working on it, is to practice it away from the drums. The other thing that's fantastic is practice pads, bass drum practice pad or a snare drum practice pad, so that you just get a thud. Or if you're at the drums and you like being at the drums because it's more fun than anything, here's a little hack. You can take a towel and chuck it over your floor tom, and it'll give you a sort of low thuddy sound. You'll be able to hear the roll much cleaner. So if it's going sort of stuff, you'll know. So you can really focus on the evenness getting it, so that it just sounds like a smooth roll. So a lot of that has to do with letting the stick rebound. Obviously with the towel you're going to have to work a little harder. However, that's good for your wrists anyway. Now, what I would say is that, leaning over like this, it does sort of teach you in a funky balance, because you're sort of off center and you're leaning towards your leg. So the other thing that I've done, which I also think is really helpful, probably more helpful than the towel on the floor tom, because the problem is when we play it just with the snare drum, as you speed it up, it's really hard to hear, if it is even, particularly if you're not used to hearing those triplet partials, like the first and second triplet, or when it's displaced the second and third triplet. So what you can do, another thing, you can just chuck your snares off. You can put the towel on the snare drum, deaden it down a little bit. And you get more of that roll sort of feeling. The other thing, if your snare drum's quite high pitched, doesn't quite give you the effect. Last but not least, in my magic bag of tricks, is you take an old drum head, cut the rim off, and chuck it on the snare drum. And what that does is two things. One, lowers the pitch, and it also doesn't kill the rebound as much. So that's sort of a good medium. And you can hear more of the attack, so it really helps with the bass drum. So we're going to do these exercises, this first one, just with either a towel, if you got it, or one of these guys. Just get your scissors out, arts and crafts time with Uncle Pete. Cut it out, chuck it on the drums, and we'll get going with the workout.